Roll up and gather around. Let me transport you to another place and another time. A place deep in the heart of rural Norfolk during a long hot summer. Trees dappling you with their shade and a cool breeze blowing across your face. Let the sound of this world fill your ears. The sound of music drifting around, filling the air. The sound of step dancing feet beating out a steady tempo. The sound of the bodgers carving their wares relentlessly. The sound of the blacksmith hammering their metal. The sound of traditions and stories being passed down from generation to generation. This, my friends, this is the sound of Strumpshaw Tree Fair. Welcome.
My name is Candy Sheridan, and I'm the organiser of Strumpshaw Tree Fair. Before the fair, I worked mainly with the Gypsy Council on plannings and helped at Dell Farm and tried to start other fairs. I did start one in Cambridge as well. There came a point when you've been to enough fairs and rallies and things have gone wrong, where you are actually put, a little group of you are put in the gypsy wagons. Instead of being next to the fairground, which would have happened for the last 100 years. You would have always been next to the fairground because they are also gypsies. All of us ended up being pushed further and further to the sort of back of any big steam rally or country fair. And I think the final blow was Henham Steam Rally, when we ended up right towards the car park with a second-hand car sales next to us one side and an organ, which is quite difficult to have all weekend, the other side because that drowned us, and a man in a clipboard came along with his visibility jacket and said to us, you can't camp here. And we said, well, actually, we're booked in. We've paid to come, and we're a display as well. And he said, well, you're in the wrong place. I said, we are in the wrong place. We should be way over there. I said, you keep pushing us out, and you've put us now next to the cars. And he said, I'm not at all happy with any of you, and I don't like your setup. And we were in a little horseshoe and I thought we looked really good, and we were helping each other as a little community of people that travel together. And he went off, and we thought, it's going to be trouble. Don't be trouble, we can see it coming. And then he came back and said that we were definitely in the wrong place and we were very troublesome, although we still hadn't said anything. And we let it go, we carried on, and we thought we'd wait till the end. And at the end, he came back and said, you're just too much trouble. We just don't want you back. And we had done nothing wrong. And the thing to remember at steam rallies and country fairs, the stalls, 30% gypsies and travellers, the attendants, 30, 40, 50%. The man in the clipboard couldn't see that, couldn't identify that, and didn't understand, as part of the rural economy, it's gypsies and travellers that are actually paying to come in, supporting it, selling, putting on a good show, bringing their families in, and they feel safe. It's part of the natural economy, if you like, in the community as well, is to go out and sell. We were sort of devastated. Everybody was very upset having lost that ground, because every time you lose a ground, you lose the ability to sell and to meet. So we lost the ground with his sort of ridiculous attitude of that we were, it's really, really awkward, because it's what he's saying to us is obviously quite racist, but he's also, I challenged him and said, you don't say that to the stationary engines. You've got 30 of them. There's 30 of them there. You don't tell them that, what's their issue, sort of thing. So it was a very personal issue, and it was very personally directed at me as well. They weren't keen with my attendance post or just during Dell Farm with the eviction and everything else, and just having those headlines. I wasn't happy either, because it affected my livelihood. So... And he said to me, you think you're so clever, don't you? And I said, no, I'm just asking what's going on and where do you want us to be? And he said, you think this is easy, don't you, running this huge event? And you're talking about a man in a clipboard who's not running the event. The volunteers are running the event. And he said, if you think you're so clever, you should go away and start your own fair. And I thought, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I wanted to start a fair where we were the centre. We were the first thing you see when you come on. We were in the right place. The showmen are in the right place. They are the right showmen, and they're in the right place, and you're giving them sort of status instead of pushing them against the hedge. And I thought, all those mistakes I've seen over the last 20 years, I can get right. And I think we're getting there. I think from my point of view, I'm telling a story. I'm actually leading people through a landscape of Strumpshaw Tree Fair. You arrive through a welcome tent, which is a complete novelty. People are always amazed every year about why I've gone to the bother of dressing the whole marquee with plants, sort of pictures, books on trees, and they come through. So they've already got this tone of, as they come out the car and they're feeling a bit hot and harassed, they come through and you can see them go, wow, this is going to be different. And you've already started, and then you start that initial engagement. And then the first thing they do as they walk through is they see the two vintage roamers and the gypsy caravans. So again, it's always, for me, I'd like it to look more like a 1950s and 60s encampment, where you saw the encampment and you sort of went past and thought, yeah, that's where they should be. Not who are they, why are they here, but this is how it should be. We are part of the landscape. This is where we should be. And then you walk through and you start to experience all the different villages, as you said. A lot of people at the when they arrive in the welcome tent, they want a map. So, I don't even have a map. So this year we did a location plan, which you might have spotted, which was a very funny little poster saying, this is here, that's there, this is your water taps, and there you are. And a lot of people took a photograph, and then I could hear them going, I don't know where I am, and I don't understand it. But off they went on their adventure. And, you don't have to have that piece of paper. You don't need to be told you've got to go here, you must arrive at 2, this is your place, your next destination. We just say to people, just wander around, go in any order you want, there's plenty to see and do, and if you miss it, they're all on again later. We'll come back tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Kiki Angelrath. I help run Strumpshaw Steam Museum. Strumpshaw Steam Museum is delighted to host Strumpshaw Tree Fair. It's just two things that go together really well. We're eccentric and have old things in the museum, and everybody at the tree fair is eccentric from Candy down. But it does fit in well because we've got the grounds, we've got nice parkland with lovely big old oak trees and other trees, and it's quite a magical setting once you get all Candy's arty-farty bits in place. One thing, Candy's got a terrific team helping her. Mm. They're all very supportive. They can't do enough.
Yeah.
And they're all very good at dealing with people. Yeah. Not everybody who puts on events, that can be said about. Some of them are a little bit.
I said that to you, didn't I?
I was going to say Hitler. I was going to say Hitlerish.
It's true. No, my crew.
Well, it's the combination. It's special because of the combination of the people who come, the music, the dance, the setting, and the people who run it. Candy and team.
Wonderful!
I'm Svetla, and I'm half Jewish. And I'm a musician. I sing. I sing gypsy songs mainly, but also I sing in 7-8 languages like Spanish, French. I'm so excited. Italian and Romania and Bulgaria. I'm born in Bulgaria, but my mom is Jewish. And also I add in my repertoire Jewish singer like Leonard Cohen. I sing tribute some songs. Amy Winehouse. I love Back to Black. And another song is my favorite. I'm no good, Amy, because always I think, ask my partner, am I good? You are. I don't believe, because I'm too like German discipline. I want to give, I want to give everything from me to even to audience. Yesterday, actually, in dance stand, 11 o'clock, having so many audience, but I sing and play like they're 1,000. And I say to my partner, I imagine ambulance. I'm big. It's like attitude, like respect. I'm actually, when I start to sing with radio 5 years old, I say my dad was seller in music shop instruments, and I say, please buy for me piano to support my voice, to be more important, not only sing with radio. And one day he bring accordion and says, Svetla, accordion is much more cheaper. And I should wait to 8 years old because maybe rules here the same. For child, you can't hold accordion even more smaller. It's change your body, you see, and must be over 8 years old to start to play accordion. And I waiting, and with my sister, I remember I play like that. My sister take bellow on the other stuff, and that was first my touch. I just very excited to touch. Before accordion, I have that stool, but small for kids stool, and I put like that in my chest and make like that, you know. And that's what I remember when I was 5 years old girl. Yesterday I started Jelim Jelim, that is the gypsy hymn, which is the translation on long road, like travel, journey. Jelim Jelim, lungone drumeja. Today I will start for record with gypsy hymn, Jelim Jelim, which is the meaning on the long road. I wish you beautiful, lovely, wonderful, magical journey. Jelim Jelim, lungone drumeja. Maladile, sugarero meja. Jelim Jelim, lungone drumeja. Maladile, sugarero meja.
The biggest influence, and the first thing you see, is the Gypsy Traveller encampment, for a better word. But when it's not a political fair, so a lot of people would just walk past and not realise the impact of what we're trying to create. And when you walk through that welcome tent, we position the two roamers so that they're in position with a gap, and in the centre is the new hall. So you've got the huge Strumpshaw new hall, beautiful old building, signifying the wealth of the family and the landed gentry and all the acreage they own. But what we do is we frame our vintage trailers, as we call them, so that you can see that, and we're just in front. And then we put the little encampment around. And we've had some people actually say to me, quite a few people say, so lovely that you're letting those people camp on your ground, you know, presuming that I'm actually in the big hall. And that has endlessly amused me, because I've never been mistaken for the landed gentry before, but I'm quite looking forward to that again. But importantly, makes me smile, because you think, the present family, absolutely wonderful, 100% behind it. But if you go back a few generations, they would not be at all comfortable with the encampment right in front of them. And I think that's a wonderful connection, really, isn't it? When you think, how far have we come that we can position them like that, and we have the confidence to do it as well. And then when you wander through, you don't know who is who. You don't, if you went to the dance tent, you might then get a bit more of a sort of feeling about Rain, the Romany poet. She's actually rockering, she's talking.
Let me tell you what it was like to be a Romany in the old days. We lived in Vardas, made love and fought in them. We put ox, fruit and veg until our backs were sore. We made pegs and sold them along the Drom. Then there were the gillies we sang until our voices were hoarse.
My name is Rain Gagan, and I'm living in Hampshire at the moment, but I have been moving about a lot over the last 3 years. I'm a poet, a writer, a songwriter, a playwright, and at certain times of the year I teach performance skills workshops. I was born in the Welsh Valleys, but ended up living in Middlesex for many years with my Romany family. I'm literally sort of sharing these poems, stories and monologues here which are based on my Romany family. Having grown up with my grandparents and my mother, sister and my aunt, because my dad died when I was a baby, I have a lot to draw on, a lot of the culture, the rituals, the old Romany ways. But also I've managed to sort of sit with cousins who have lots of memories about the past. My family used to do a lot of hop picking in Bishopsfroom in Herefordshire and in Kent, and they were flower sellers, they were horse dealers, and there's a whole sort of richness about that I basically wanted to celebrate and let people know about, and that's really what I've been doing here today. First of all, let's start on the Romany language, because I was actually talking about that this morning, earlier today when I was performing. It's the Romany jib. Jib is the word for language. Puckering is the word to speaking the Romany. I'm particularly passionate about the Romany language, and I use it a lot in my poetry. I intersperse the Romany jib with the English words, and I also use it in my songs. Now, I'm not fluent, but I did grow up with hearing the language, which makes it easier for me to remember certain words and to relearn some of the words. And I go to various sources, family is the best really, people that remember the language, to give me an idea of what the words are. And I'm particularly passionate about keeping the language alive so that it is still a living language. And I'm very concerned that, in some areas the language has completely died out. A lot of family members don't speak it at all. They just sort of forgotten about it. It's just sort of, been left. So I sort of see that really as my role to bring the language out, to let people hear it, to listen to it. And obviously because I'm reading it and I'm singing it, they have that opportunity to listen to the language.
Then you must sleep, dream of Shushi and cry. I'll sing you a lullaby, my beautiful child. I'll cast a dropper, how peaceful you'll lie. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
And then when I was looking at writing about the Romany side of my family, I realised that it's a way for me to share and celebrate my family and going back in generations, 3 or 4 generations, who they were, what they did, how they acted, and see it as a celebration. Bring these stories forward. We, as writers, we write about many different things, and I think when you come across something that is so deep and has so many different sort of levels of understanding, it's useful to just sort of take one thing at a time and go with that. So the craft of writing for me means really to be able to write about the GRT community in a new way, by bringing in the language, bringing in these characters who were just full of life. It's been a very rich experience being able to perform and to know that the audience were members of both Roma and Gorgia's non-Roma, and to be able to speak to them afterwards and talk about the language and talk about the ideas, and hearing how their sort of family members were maybe a little bit similar to my granny or my grandfather, and because it is Strumpshaw is full of artisans. And I'd like to read this little poem here because it's got the lovely Romany jib in it, and it does feel a little bit special. Romanicels in the 1950s. Covels packed, chavis scrubbed clean, miracles bowl washed with panny, the gry grismed old. Opre and gelon, dick the next atch in tan, a fellow chalpukas, kushti bokt. And really that is the sort of thing in the 1950s that the travelling people would have done. The covels is belongings, chavis are the children, Rackleys are the girls washing their hair with water, and the horses are sort of brushed and ready to go. And then Opre and Gelon, let's move on now and find the next stopping place. And then a fellow man shouts out, good luck.
pole lathe.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
right,
so like people who've been in the forest bodging and that, like,
Yeah.
like apparently, like, my mate, he's well into it. He reckon like only a true bodger and that would take his metal work into the woods and leave with chair legs.
Yeah, my name's Ollie. Been coming to the tree fair from since the start, and yeah, we love it. There should be more tree fairs around, or wood fairs in general. But yeah, it seems really good atmosphere. Lots of tools to buy, which is like we all love tools.
You say your traditional craft is that you practice?
Wood turning, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely wood turning. But got introduced to the green woodwork side of things, which is what we're doing here, like a bit later on in life. But yeah, fell in love with it, and we've been doing it at the show since.
Yeah.
So, but this is still viable for spindles, basically. You know, I think it's really quick.
Yeah.
And people quite often say that, you know, it's not as slow as we thought it was.
The pole lathe.
The pole lathe, yeah.
So when does that date from, the pole lathe? 'Cause that was the age.
I think pretty much Adam and Eve, to be honest. Well, yeah, that's
Tradition, that's how piles first created.
yeah, that's right. That's what comes next, yeah. Yeah, through the friction on the ends, you know, they say fire may have once been first
Is that true?
found underneath the pole lathe. That's what they'll say in the Bodgers Gazette, mate. Yeah, you know, it's all, yeah, it could well be true though, you know, you can see where they're going.
So what does bodger mean?
So you'll find out when you go a bit further down. There's the Green Woodworkers and Bodgers Association. So it's people who are into the wood turning foot power.
Well, I'm Tony Papworth, and about 7 years ago I saw a pole lathe, and there was no one operating it, but I could see how it worked and what it did. And I like to make things, so I made a pole lathe. And later I found out there was an organisation where they held meetings and races with pole lathes. But the organisation is called Bodgers. Bodgers is a term that was used in and around High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire. And Bodgers basically, for about 100 years, used to bid for the wood on the land. And from that wood they would all turn spindles, the legs and the spindles, and then they sold the spindles they made. Somebody else called a bench maker would make the benches, which is the seat of the chair, and then the chair maker would put together the three pieces, and the finished chairs were then sold in Windsor, and we get the term Windsor chair from the sale of the chairs in Windsor. The organisation I said earlier, the Association of Pole Lathe Turners and Grid Woodworkers, we all meet annually, so all the counties come together. And for example, this year in May they all met in North Wales, which is a bit too far for me and my old car to travel, but that's called the Bodgers Ball, so we all get together on a field like this. It's not a ball, it's nothing to do with dancing, which disappoints some of the women, but typically they have little competitions, you know, who can make a saleable item in 30 minutes. The most competitive one is the log to leg race, and you draw lots to get a log made of ash, typically about 16 inches long, and you have to split it and make 2 legs for a Windsor chair to a given pattern. So it's got 3 beads at one end and 2 beads at the other, and you have to make 2 legs to that pattern as quick as possible. And I think the world record at the moment stands at under 6 minutes. And I've taken part, and I can only make 1 in the 30 minutes allowed, you know. So it's not what I do, but it's awesome to watch.
Yeah.
And I think there's a world championships coming up soon. You know, people are coming from Ireland and around the world to sort of take part in the world champion log to leg race.
My name is Richard Rose, and I'm currently doing bodging or treadle lathe work. I saw it being done a number of years ago by a gentleman called Will Wall at Westow Country Park, and I loved the idea of it. I thought I'd have a go at that, and it got out of control a bit. Our lives are completely dominated by fairs. They're a great opportunity. Very, very few of us can afford to own a shop or even rent a space in a shop, and this gives us a great opportunity to go around, set up our stands, For lots of people, it's the first time they've sold anything, and they get to feel whether they actually like it or not. They can cut their teeth on fairs, but it also allows you to be individual, different. You can try something that is completely out there and find out afterwards whether it works. If it goes on the day, then yep, we've hit the nail on the head here, we can carry on, or we can develop it. You can look around at other people and not steal ideas, or some steal ideas, but you look at it and you can develop your own ideas. You can look at it, you see inspirations, you think, well, that's such a simple answer to that problem. I just have to adjust my stuff away. And it's just full of new ideas, new colours. It's just brilliant. You very often get to know the person next to you very, very well. Or if we've been doing it 25 years, so we know some of these people 10, 20 years or more. You might not see them for 10 years, and they'll all turn up in the same place and just carry on as before, and you meet new people all the time. It's always constantly changing and evolving, but also there's always the base core people there you get to know. My family's always been in timber, but usually from a factory base. But my first love is archaeology and history. Unfortunately, to become an archaeologist, you have to know about education and things, and me and education never went too well together. But knowing this in the historical record, it turns up in archaeological records, and that just absolutely fascinated me. And then being able to join wood together with love of archaeology, and it was a match made in, well, don't know where it was made, but it wasn't made in economics anyway. Me and academia never sat well together. I liked it, but he used to wave it as he went past me. But it's just, if you've got a real passion for something, and you don't mind talking to people, and you certainly don't mind being told to do by other people, it's all there for the taking. You can discover old trades, from barrel making to basket making. It's not easy. It's easy to do, but it's hard to make a living out of it. You can keep the wolf from the door, but you can't paint the door very often. It's but the only thing you can't make on the pole is money. But I'm trying.
So it's very inspiring to hear that you've managed to create this life out of doing this beautiful craft that you love.
Well, we don't go on holiday, and I've got an extremely patient wife who puts up with a hell of a lot. If you don't set your sights too high for a huge financial reward, then the reward is what you do and where you do it.
Yeah, it sounds like this is all that you want, really.
Yeah.
Compared to
extra money. Get to come to a place like Strumpshaw Hall here, and it's fantastic. You've got these beautiful open grounds, these fantastic trees around us, which we're not using, and it's a privilege.
At one point during the weekend, I was introduced to the wonderful Gloria Buckley, MBE, someone who spent their life campaigning for the better treatment of those from the GRT community. Coming from a gypsy community herself, she enlightened me on how Strumpshaw Tree Fair championed the traditions of these past generations.
Hello there, my name is Gloria Buckley. One of the reasons that draw me here and people like me is that it's this community. Everyone's here, and if it's to sell their wares and apply their trade, as we used to do when we stopped around the turnpikes. We'd stand around the turnpikes. If we didn't want to pay to go through, we could stand there to sell our wares and apply our trade. And I suppose that's how we came across the name. People used to call us bikers. Didn't ever think that was an insult. My father didn't anyway. But to come and see all these people applying their trade, selling their wares, that is really something that appeals to me. And the craft that goes into it. We have lace tablecloths. My mother had them, my granny had them, and I've got loads. Can't get rid of them. But to bring the lace tablecloths here so that these skillful needlewomen can make beautiful dresses out. And in fact, one of the girls is going to make a wedding dress for us. And to come into a place like this, you can see how the other half lives, can't you? You can see how people are and how happy they are. They're making things that are not hardly things that people throw away. Now that is how we used to be. We used to make things after the war. We'd decorate dresses that were very plain, coloured bric-a-brac and lace on the underwear, lace and frills on the pillows, and make everything. Well, it used to. You might think it was OTT for gypsy life, but that's how we did. We did that.
If it's cool, I'd love to know if there's a difference, like in fairs today, than they were perhaps when you were a little girl.
Yeah, because times have changed. We've moved on. Everything's changed. This would be full of horses at one time, but it's not anymore. Look here. I like the ideas of the tractors and the steam engines and all that, and harking back to old times, but staying in the present. The present is the most important time of all. to regret the past or anticipate the future, there isn't a smile on your face. There's some anxiety around you. So perhaps I learnt that coming along, that this is the only time there is now.
I think that's something that perhaps we've lost.
Have we? Have we? I don't look around here. I don't know that people very much acting in the present, I think, as you are here. I think we do know that. Perhaps we don't voice it as well as I've done just now, but we are. This is where we know we're happy, not anticipating the future.
A lilac grown on a poison thorn. It has roots dirty and torn. Young uns play where the black crow flies. Mama's weeping, hear the mountains cry. There was another.
So anyway, I'm going to tell you one of my favourite stories about a very, very fussy queen. Now this fussy queen, she lived in a very, very beautiful castle. Now the king, he wasn't fussy about things, but he was very, very greedy. Let me tell you about him. All day
Yeah, hello, I'm Richard O'Neill. I am a children's author and storyteller from the Romani tradition. I first came to Strumpshaw just last year. It's something that I've been wanting to come to, but for work commitments I couldn't do. I've been travelling to other places. Came here last year and really, really loved it. It's just got such a relaxed vibe. It's all about trees, it's all about woodcraft, it's about story, and it's about people. And you know, it's for everybody. And I think one of the wonderful things about it is that everybody just mixes in. So you know, I come from a Romani family, I come from a travelling background, and we've got some travelling people here, but we've got people from every background here. And for me, everybody's just mixing in, and there's something for everybody. Yeah, I think it's unusual in the sense that it is welcoming to travelling people like myself. It's welcoming to everybody, and it gives people the chance to see each other in a very, very relaxed and a very positive environment. So I think that's one of the best things about it. And you know, I think we all, when we come here, people can see, they'll say, oh, you know, whatever community they're from, oh, my granddad used to make things at home, or you know, my grandma used to tell stories. And it's just about, I think what we're doing is we're celebrating a lot of the older traditions, we're honouring a lot of those people who went before, but we're also showing the relevance of all these things now. You know, we've just had a whole lot of people here listening to stories. We've got what we call intergenerational, so we've got people from lots and lots of different generations all enjoying the same thing. And you know, have a look around, nobody's playing on their phone. Being a storyteller was something that was really, really valued in my family, because if I go back to when I was a child, very, very young, the early days, then a lot of people in the travelling communities weren't very literate. You know, they hadn't been to school, they hadn't had the opportunity to go to school. We didn't have history books, and you know, one of the things about storytelling for us was that not only was it an entertainment, not only was it something that allowed us to keep our history and to keep it in the way that we wanted to keep it, without being taken and changed. So storytelling for us was a multifunctioning thing, and vital, because it reminded you where you came from. It was there for you in the bad times, it was there for you in the good times, and yeah, it was just everything. And it's interesting, because I think what we will say in our family, we have people who are story keepers. I guess, you know, in almost every family around the UK and beyond, when we used to have photograph albums before we had telephones with all of our stuff on, there would be one person in every family who perhaps kept the family album. You know, so that there was probably one person in every family that kept a family album, a record of the family. And it's the same, you know, in my family, there would be somebody who would keep all of the stories, and that kind of passed on to me. And it's one of those things that for me, you don't become a storyteller. In my family, it's always there, but then story comes to you and it asks you to take over, which is what I've done. And I've done it slightly differently in the sense that now I've started to put stories into books. So being a children's author allows me to get those stories much further and wider than I could have done by just telling them to people.
All day long, he'd be in the counting house counting out gold coins. Imagine looking at a gold coin like our Queen and seeing yourself on the coin. You'd be like, oh, hello, pound coin. That's me, look at that, yeah? Now, all day long, help me out with this, he'd sit in his counting house counting his money. He'd be like this, oh, one for me, one for me, one for me. They're all for me, I'm rich. And he'd do that all day, day in, day
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, all of the stories that I tell are either the ones that I've created or they're the ones from my family, so that keeps them pure. So, you know, I'm creating stories for the next generation in my family as my family created them for me. So it's that constant moving forward. So you will have a mixture of a story from 500-600 years ago and one that is brand new from yesterday. So and again, that I think that signifies travelling people as well, because we are, you know, we don't live in the past. We live in the past, the present, and the future all at the same time.
Yeah.
And that shows you that, again, with stories, the themes really of stories don't change. You know, you look back at Greek mythology, you look back at, you know, very, very earlier stories in very early cultures, then we still have those themes. People will say, oh, this latest TV programme seems like this Greek tragedy or like that. So a lot of the stories, the themes are the same in almost every culture. Yeah. We just tell them differently. So, you know, Romani storytellers like myself will tell them differently. You know, we take time to communicate with each other. So whether we're old friends, you know, somebody came today to be here who I haven't seen since she was here last year, and we picked it up straight away as if we'd only seen each other yesterday. But we didn't do that very formally, we did it with story.
Yeah.
You know, story is for me, it's the most powerful communication tool you can have, because you've got to listen to what somebody's saying. You've got to be able to communicate in a way that you think suits them.
Yeah.
So it's very circular rather than linear, and it takes into account the person you're with. So for me, that's one of the things. That's why storytelling is always very popular, because it really goes from our heart to your heart. You know, it's that direct communication. I think anywhere is a special place where you can be yourself and you can talk about your culture openly. You can tell the stories that you know that you want to tell, and the people are very open to that. It's a very gentle fair. You walk around here and there's a lovely atmosphere. So I think everybody feels included, and the reason why I came back was because I just had so much fun last time. You know, you meet some of the nicest people, and some, you know, I've met some people again who were here last time, and they go, oh, how are you? So I think it's very community focused. So I think what happens is it's almost like when people come through the gate, then they just become part of this community. And I think it's something that will build even stronger over the years. You know, they say there have been great cultures around the world, great civilizations without the wheel, but there have been none without story.
And as they ran off, the Queen said, bring back my gold! And the people went, no chance. And, are you ready? The Queen lived fussily ever after. The King lived greedily ever after. But at least the travelling clothes peg makers lived happily ever after.
Hi, I'm Teresa from Band of Fools. I'm the accordion player and the longest standing member of the band. Yeah. I'm Emily, hello. Also in Band of Fools.
I'm Sim. I sing and I play the bouzouki, the mandolin and the guitar and anything else that makes a noise.
I'd been playing lots of Irish stuff, and I was quite blown away when I heard lots of Balkan and klezmer and gypsy music as an accordion player, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting and really complicated.
Yeah, so it's a mixture of, I'd say like a crossover between Anglia or like London-y kind of punky stuff and Eastern European. So we have things like folk songs, which are traditional. Some of them go back to kind of like 1850, 1860, and then we just give it a bit more of a sort of upbeat vibe. There's definitely something really English about that. I mean, interestingly, all the sort of klezmer scales have a kind of a bit of a sadness in them. So when you play them, but with a really upbeat kind of feeling and joy and sort of groups of people dancing and things like that, it's kind of quite bittersweet. So it's a really positive outlook, but also at the same time you just have a little bit of, if you're feeling a bit sad, it expresses that too, but at the same time you're just kind of dancing and being happy.
This is our first year at Strumpshaw Tree Festival, and it's great to come here. We love it. I think it is, and I'm not just saying this, one of the friendliest places I've ever been, and particularly as we got here on Friday night, and just it's like this extra festival of the people who are making the festival having a bit of a hangout, but it's just lovely and friendly.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic place.
It's very relaxed, isn't it? There's lots of space. Yeah, definitely friendly. Everyone's here.
Loads of trees.
Yeah.
And I spent all my money on the first night buying artisan jewellery.
Fairs have been around for hundreds of years. There was the travelling showmen, there was the travelling gypsies, and just storytellers. They went from town and village to village, and they brought wares with them, and then they ended up sort of, the showmen and the gypsies sort of merged together. The showmen bought the rides. They started off with the steam ones, the steam gallopers, and went from there. And it's a legacy and a heritage of this country, and Ireland as well, that people have always been nomadic, always presented a fair. And also the other thing to remember is that villages couldn't wait. They could not wait till the fair or the circus arrived. The other issue would be the travelling circus. They could not wait for that entertainment to arrive. A bit much like the tree fair, arrives, it's all go, 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 and then it's gone, and you think, what happened there? When are they coming back? We can't wait. So we're building on that legacy and that heritage.
Hey, having a go? Would you like a go? Yes. Legs apart, a gimbo. That's it, 3 strikes as hard as you can. Ring that bell. Oh, harder than that. Follow through with the hammer. Oh no, come on, hit it hard. You're missing it really. Now stand back a little bit, look, you've got to hit that in the middle. That's better, go on, and again. We might have to cheat here, you've got the hang of it now. That'll do, yeah. Right, any prize you like off the... Yeah, I'm the Boston showman, I am. Boston showman. That's me.
Yeah, we'll get that in there. Boston. I like that.
Yeah, I am the Boston showman. It says so on the top of my card. I usually travel a shooter, a cork shooter, but I'm getting on a bit now because I've had nearly 60 years travelling. I'm 78, and so I'm easing up a bit.
So moving around less.
Fun?
Moving around less.
Well, I'm still moving around, yeah, but I'm cutting a few of the long distance jobs out, yeah. It was my grandfather before me, but he died in 1939 and left the stuff to the girls, and they sold it all in 53. So when I was born in 44, I had to start out on my own again, travelling on my own, which I did with my brother. My brother died and I just carried on. Yeah, I started in Blackpool, on the North Pier. I've had prize bingos. I've been a smudger on the beach in Mablethorpe and Skegness. That's the old-fashioned chap that took your picture on a donkey.
Yeah, so my name's Gareth. I've been collecting vintage fairground equipment for about 15 years. So it's a bit of a hobby. It's more of a hobby than a business. We're mostly marquee hirers, but then to run alongside our event company, we started hiring out the old swing boats. So then we got introduced to Candy. Candy invited us along to the show, and here we are. How did we start? I suppose I've had an interest in fairgrounds for several years now. When my grandparents were alive, they used to take us round to the old fairgrounds and the steam rallies, and I suppose it just fascinated me how all of the equipment got onto site. It built up overnight, there it was presented. Everyone had such a lovely time, all the smells and out of the fairground, and all of a sudden the next day everything's packed up and moved away. And I suppose I just found it so fascinating, and then I started to do my own research into it. I was offered an old fairground round stool, so I went and got that, restored it, and so on really. That's where it all began. So now I just sort of go around the country picking old fairground bits up if we see them for sale. We like coming to Strumpshaw. It's just a week. We treat it as a bit of a weekend away for us as well. Usually we're always flat out on the other shows. So we come to Strumpshaw, we get on well with Candy, so we just come for a bit of a relaxed weekend away. Really, we come present our old time vintage amusements. We're invited along and come and have a good weekend.
Well, it's a lovely place. It's like going back to the 50s coming here. This fair in particular that we're doing now, the reason I came is because I've just come from a very busy steam fair, hectic, and I can chill out here. You know, the people are no problem. You know, they appreciate what they've got in this stuff. You know, it's stuff you don't see every day.
You don't see stuff like this nowadays, do you?
No, we don't, and I think that's what most of our enjoyment of coming out to, like the smaller shows and the fetes, is the children absolutely love to see swing boats, because obviously that age generation now, they're not used to them. So, and it's such a simple ride, in all honesty, nothing to them, but the children absolutely love riding them.
Have you ever felt like doing something else?
No.
Why not?
No. Well, I'm not educated enough, but I've done what comes naturally to me, and when it comes naturally you enjoy it and you do it okay, and that's it. I think, well, I'm satisfied with what I've got. I've not got a lot, but I've seen a lot. I consider myself well travelled, and you know, that's about it. It's hard work, don't get me wrong. So that's why I can call myself the Boston Showman, because I'm not an amusement caterer. I don't take a ride and don't talk to anybody. I've got to live in with my mouth. Well, anyway, I've got the biggest garden in the world, haven't I? You know, I've got the biggest garden in the world.
My name's Catherine Womack. I'm a trained blacksmith. I specialise in plasma cutting, so most of my work is plasma cut hairs and animals and things. But I also got the forge out, so I've built myself a little mini forge to bring out today and doing a little bit of blacksmithing demonstration. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to have a go at it, and there used to be a show at the Norfolk Showground called the Town and Country in September, and they had farriers working there. And I used to love watching them getting the metal hot and hitting it, and I used to go home like 6 years old and stick the poker in the fire and, Mum, why isn't it getting hot? And then I eventually sort of found out what they were doing, and I didn't like horses, so farrier, not an option. And then, yeah, spent years trying to get onto courses to do it and could never afford it. Went to work in a pub in Norwich. Pub started to run out of money. I thought I'd better go and find another job, so quit. Went and worked for an agency for a bit, and then thought, sod it, I'm going to go and do some blacksmithing. I like the kind of the permanence of it. Like you see, I mean, you can go to the V&A and go in their metalwork gallery, and there's bits of metalwork in there that are 1,000 years old. I like the idea that I can make something, and you know, unless there's another world war and it all gets melted down, you know, my stuff's could be there. You know, the forge things could be there for 1,000 years.
And what's been the reaction to the forge from the public?
A lot of interest, a lot of confusion, because people don't expect a girl to be doing this.
Right.
It's people are saying, you know, my mum's helping look after the store, and people keep saying, well, does she make all this? And mum's like, well, she's over there doing that, so isn't it fairly obvious that she's the one who makes it? But yeah, people just don't expect to see a woman doing it. I mean, my boyfriend's here, and he, you know, built like the proverbial brick outhouse, and he's the one who gets all the questions as well. And everybody just assumes it's everybody else except me doing it. Within blacksmithing, within the blacksmithing community, there's nothing. Like, there's a lot of women, the guys who sort of revived blacksmithing back in the 70s know their daughters are blacksmiths. With the general public, I mean, when I was training, I used to have a lot of people walk in the workshop and go, well, that's a funny job for a girl, isn't it? And I'm like, it's a funny job for anyone, really, isn't it? I mean, come on, you know, not just for a girl. My proudest one, though, young girl. I came here years ago at this site, and they did a festival for 3 days, and I was blacksmithing here, and I was doing sessions with families, so you could come and people just come to have like 45 minutes with me, make a poker. And I had a lovely lady called Heather from a few villages away from me. She's a potter, makes amazing pots, and she brought her kids with her. So it was her husband, and the kids all had a go. And the boys, I had to watch them like hawks and tell them exactly where to hit things. Her daughter was, I think, about 8 or 9 at the time, and I handed her the hammer, and she'd watched me so carefully, and I didn't have to tell her what to do. She was like an old blacksmith in a child's body. She was absolutely incredible. And I said to her mum, keep an eye on her. She will keep her doing this because she's got a natural gift for it. And I spoke to her mum a couple of years ago. She messaged me out of the blue and said, I just thought you'd like to know. My daughter's been and had gone to the guy that you trained with, and she's having lessons now. She's 15 and she's absolutely loving it, and he says she's a natural as well, and she's keeping at it. And all the time while she's been growing up, we've been going to fairs and things, she's always tried to get on the forges and have a go, and she's always been really good at it. So now she wants to do it for a living. She wants to come and work for you. So yeah.
Wow.
I said, well, when she's a bit older and when I actually can afford to pay somebody to work for me, then I'll have her with me. But yeah, and the nicest thing about that was I'd borrowed a hammer from my boss for this fair, and when I saw the pictures of her working, she was using the hammer that she'd used when she was 8. I thought that was so sweet. I was just, I can die happy now. I've got one little girl into it. I'm a happy bunny. I mean, I grew up with the tales of the old, the Albion fairs, like Barsham Fair and all the fairs that used to happen around Norfolk and Suffolk in the 70s, that my mum and dad used to go to, and like reading the books about them. And Candy's sort of done this to make it as close to the vibe of the old fairs as she can get. And my mum's here with me this year, and she said, yeah, it's very much like the original fairs. It's a lot of creative people, and it's run as a fair for the stall holders, because when the general public go, it's a party for us. Candy's very conscious that like a lot of things you go to, end of the day, general public go and you just do nothing. Whereas we have music, there's beer tents open, it's a party for us as well. And there's a lot of people here who live in vans. It's sort of travelling communities here as well. It's a real good mixture of people, not just amongst the general public but amongst the stall holders as well. And I think that's what gives it its special vibe, because you've got like the travellers down one corner, you've got all the different musicians, you've got van people, you've got people who live off grid, you've got people who work 9 to 5 jobs in offices and then come here and do this, do their craft things here at the weekend. So that's what gives it its vibe, is just there's such a mixture of creativity. Like I was sitting here last night, and there was just some music started, just some guys, banjos and double basses and things just across the way from us, just spontaneously started playing, which was a thing that happened at the old fairs in the 70s. Yeah. So it's very much got that vibe going on. Rings like a bell.
And it's good you've met the family, including Andy as well, because he didn't even want the fair. He thought it was a good idea, and then when it started, he was like, "Oh no, year 3, God, you're doing it again? No, not again. Just leave me alone. I'm in my workshop." And then it was a way of trying to engage with him to say, "But okay, I know you can't help me because it's all physical, and you can't physically do that. But then to say to him, do your display boards. He'd never done them before. That was his lockdown project. He had all these tools that were just thrown in the workshop. I said, let's put them on boards for lockdown. I think 40 boards later, it's like, God, give me strength." They look good, don't they? Look good. They look lovely, don't they? So his lockdown project has given him his role at the fair. He is the man with the tools. He gets to talk and learn and pass those skills on, and he's got his place. He doesn't have to be run ragged with, could you take this there and can you come over here? Everyone's got to find their spot, haven't they? Yeah. And this year, I think we did. We found it. It was for so many people, which is beautiful. What more could you want? I mean, other people might be going, oh, we didn't make enough money. And I'm going, no, it was beautiful. Yeah, it really was.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm Candy's husband, who Candy organises the fair. I'm 70 now, I'm retired, and I've got a really dodgy hip, and I can't do the voluntary work I used to do for the RSPB mainly on the fens. So I put all my energy into collecting old fen and farm related tools. It started because I was working on the fen, and I was just thinking, oh, that's a fen tool, I'll buy that. And I've now got about, 250, 300 bits and pieces. I have a stall where I sell the tools that I don't want anymore, which helps pay for the tools that I do want, it's a good life. I just wish my hip wasn't so bad. Well, when we thought about this years ago, there used to be a Rougham Tree Fair down in Suffolk, and I said, well, why not Strumpshaw Tree Fair? Because it's a nod back to the old fairs, with a modern twist, if you like. And we had one friend of ours go, "Why have you called it a tree fair?" And I know you can't see it, but we're surrounded by mature trees, you know, in parkland, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, it's hard work. We took a week to get everything down here and get set up and what have you for 2 days, you know. But it's worth it. You know, people enjoy it so much. You know, the amount of people who come up and say, "I didn't believe this was here. I didn't believe this was happening. I didn't know this park was here. I didn't know the Steam Museum was here."
I'd love it if you would talk very briefly just about this beautiful caravan we're sitting in front of right now.
Right. Well, it's a Roma caravan built by Roma in York. It looks old school, but it was built in 87, I think it was. And funnily enough, a friend of mine bought it out of a sale, and I happened to see it in his yard. I said, what do you want for that? And he said, "Oh," and I said, "I'll offer you, you know." And a week later he came back and he couldn't get the money he wanted, so I bought it. And then in about, I think it was 2006, I was at the Steam Rally down here and selling the tools. I don't display at Steam Rallies, I just sell the tools. And this young lady turned up and she was looking at it. I said, "Do you want to have a look inside?" And she said, "Oh, yes, please." And she went in, and I didn't quite understand what was going on. She was dumbstruck, you know, and she sat down. I said, "You all right? When we go and get your daughter?" She said, "When I was a little girl, our family lived in one of these." Yeah. And I said, "Oh, so you're bringing back memories." Yeah, you know. And that lady's now my wife.
Really? Oh, no way.
That's how we met.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And we got married down here at the Steam Rally 7 years ago now. And we had a wedding. We've got a square open lot wagon over there, and we got married on the steps of that, you know, and all this sort of thing, you know. Keeps her happy, you know. I'll get punched. You can edit that.
So my name's Lily Sheridan Power. I'm Candy's daughter who runs the fair. So I run all the social medias, so the Instagram and Facebook are solely run by me. So I do a little more of the kind of behind the scenes work, I suppose. Yeah, it's nice working with my mum because she's so creative. Her mind is so creative, and you know, she thinks of all the small details in a way that I would overlook. I think our minds kind of work differently in regards to that, and she would say that I'm business headed, but she thinks more about like the bunting and like making little displays and making different photo points and making sure there's workshops for children and making sure that everyone is engaged. I think she cares a lot about people coming and engaging with the experience and not just I don't know, she wants to make it an experience, not just a festival. And so it's really nice to work with someone so closely on something they're so passionate about, because it makes you passionate about. And also being her daughter, it's like the fair kind of represents all these different parts of her life in like one weekend. Because she's had so many different careers and lived so many different lives, and it's like every single aspect of that, which I still don't even know the entire magnitude of. 23 years and counting, but she manages to kind of incorporate it all into one experience, and yeah, it's just really cool. I mean, there's just a massive community here, and I was saying this last night to Daisy, who's in the Floozies, about how like her daughter has been coming to the fair for the past few years, and I see her playing with all of the kids here, and I know that each year they come and they see each other each year here and they play together, and it reminded me so much of my childhood and how we would go to different fairs and festivals, and I'd make so many friends, and I still have some of them on Facebook. Like I still have some of those connections, and it's such a formative time in your life, those early years, and those like friendships make a difference in your adult friendships. So it's just, I don't know, it's weird because I don't know, it's like a sense of community, even though it's just a 2-day event, and you see these like children making these connections, and you see these like different people from all different groups of all different groups in different parts of the world kind of unite and exchange knowledge and share an experience, which is it's just nice to see. I think what makes it special is, as we were saying, it's a safe space for people from, you know, different backgrounds, different cultures. I don't necessarily think it's anyways, we try really hard not to be elitist. Well, we want it to be for normal people who want to come together and enjoy music and to enjoy the sun and to meet each other and to share stories. I think a big part of it is about sharing, like stories, fables. It's about exchanging knowledge. And also it makes me so proud of my mum every time I attend. So especially for me, it's about having other people appreciate how amazing my mum is, which is so cringe, but it's true. Like, I always know how creative she is and how she puts her heart into everything she does. And it's not just, it's not in any way about the money. It's more so that she just loves being busy and she loves combining things and introducing people. So the fair is, for her especially, a place where she can, celebrate her Irish travelling background. She can also show her interest in creative arts and also into cultures and also wood, massive part of it, of course, and sustainability. So yeah, it's so nice to see a physical representation of all these things.
Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Sound Larks production. I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone who contributed and allowed myself and my team to interview them, as well as to Candy and all the other amazing people who make such a special event possible. If you'd like to find out more about Strumpshaw Tree Fair, please visit strumpshawtreefair.co.uk or check out their social medias on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, please come along next year on the 15th and 16th of July 2023 and experience Strumpshaw Tree Fair for yourself. Don't just let your experience stop here. Come and be part of a community and something incredibly rare and special. A place where all are welcome and we celebrate our shared heritage within the beautiful East Anglian landscape. Till we meet again, thank you so much and goodbye.
Deep breath and I get real high and I scream the top of my lungs. What's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? Just the voices. And I said, I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, I said, hey, what's going on?